called the Astro Rocks Festival. It was on the 25th and 26th of August. Mount Magnet's about 550 k's from Perth, and it was quite an interesting event. The town really showed out for it. Unfortunately, there was a big darts competition on in Geraldton the same day, which meant a lot of people went to the darts competition, thanks the Honourable Darren West. The purpose of the event... Oh yes, Geraldton. Was he the target? That was the Metro Nuts. The purpose of the event is to showcase and celebrate geological heritage and astronomical wonders of Australia. So one thing about Mount Magnet that it has going for it is the skies can be really clear and you can see a lot into the stars. Now, I'm not normally someone who gazes into stars, but it was quite interesting to see what they had at the event. Now, the event was funded by the Regional Events Scheme, and it really did show how critical it is for us to fund these types of events, because it brings in the tourism. There was caravans all over Mount Magnet that day, and they stayed overnight specifically to see the event. At the event, we had SciTech were there, blowing things up, which the kids enjoyed. We had sausage sizzles, telescopes. A lot of enthusiasts had showed up. I was blown away with how much money people spend on telescopes, I have to say. There were equipment there that had probably $10,000 to $15,000 worth for a hobby. Is quite extravagant. There was an Earth exhibition with local rocks. Now, I have to say I have forgotten the gentleman's name, but there was a gentleman who lived in Mount Magnet for many years, and he donated his entire rock collection to the Visitors Centre. Now, when I say rock collection, there's no price tag you could put on these rocks. It was every single rock you could think of around Australia, the world. It was just massive. And you go into the Visitors Centre and there's a full display on, and all the tourists were around there looking at it, and it was really, really well accepted. We were really well welcomed by the Shire President, Jorgen Jensen. It was really good to sort of get a head around some of the issues they're facing out there in Mount Magnet, speak with the locals, and really get to know some of the issues they have out there. And I can tell you it was quite confronting getting into the town to see. It's one of those typical circumstances where there had been a mine there, the mine was still operating, but it used to be no FIFO employment back in the 80s and 90s. And then as soon as it switched to FIFO employment, just all the money come out of the town. And you could really tell that the people that were there were the ones that had really toughed it out and really made sure that they were going to stay there for the rest of their lives. And it was a lot of seniors there as well. But we finished the event off by looking at Jupiter, and we had a pretty good event where the International Space Station come across the sky, and we were watching that, and it looked like a satellite was going to collide with it, but we all think that they're on the same level up in the sky. It was actually thousands of miles away from it, but the crowd thought it was quite entertaining. And then on the Saturday, I had the honour of being able to launch a book for NAIDOC Elder of the Year, Ollie George. So the book is called Nanang Barimaya Wonga, Yarns with Gammy Ollie George. Just for Hansard, I'm holding it up. This man is a true inspiration and a leader in Indigenous culture. He is the last fluent speaker of the Badimar language, and he'd worked very, very hard with many people, but Brendan Penza is probably one to mention, on putting together an exhibition and a book, and also recording all the Badimar language. Now, they've now recorded that language, which would have been lost if that hadn't been done. And this is many and many years of work put into this. Now, Ollie is quite a character, I have to say. I'm going to read just the foreword about the book, because I think it really sums up what we need to do better in the Indigenous space, because if we don't protect and help them protect their culture, it will be lost. Ollie George has had a fascinating and extraordinary life. He was born in Pulagaroo Station near Paynes Find to Sydney. George and George Mulga and Claire George in 1934, one of 13 children. Growing up in Isbana, Ollie learnt all there was to know about Badimar language, culture and country. He worked with the pastoral stations of Badimaya country from a young age, living on country and speaking his mother's tongue. Badimaya is his dear Nana, Dina, and Papa Nugget. This kind of experience is rare now and has been for many years. Ollie was one of the last of even his generation to grow up speaking this language. And we are so lucky and grateful for his upbringing now. Without Ollie and the work of other old Badimaya people in the past, we and the subsequent future generations would no longer have our language. What really struck me about this book too was not only had he done all this work, they'd also gotten into some new technology that I haven't seen yet. For Hansard's sake, I'm holding up a microphone. Basically what they've done with the book is throughout the book, Ollie speaks stories of his life. And these little pictures here of sound, if you put the microphone to it, you will then hear Ollie speak Badimaya language. So not only has he recorded it all, he's now made it possible for us all to hear what that language sounded like. So I'm going to attempt something. When I say attempt, I'm not 100% sure if this is going to work, but I did promise Ollie I was going to have his language said, and I can't read it, so we're going to try. This is a story about his dad getting bucked off a horse.
Ride him around the house, Waji. Walk about the man on him, bucked him off. My dad, he couldn't ride. And when I was a little fella, I said, I wish I could get on it. Probably would have done the same with me.
So that was a story of, and as you can tell, he's a very, very funny guy, and he has quite a laugh. But basically the story goes, my dad was a big fella, and he used to make me sorry. He used to get bucked off a horse, and I was a young fella, and I used to go, oh, I wish I could get on for you. I've always to have a go at that horse. But I were too young. Yeah, I'll have a go at it. I was about 6 or 7 years old, or might be younger. I cantered around the sheep to bring them back, cantered along, and then next minute I dropped off and the horse kept going. So this is right to the character of Ollie, and a lot of people in the town respected him, and he's worked very hard on his culture, and it was an absolute honour to launch this book that they'd worked so hard on, and I'll have this around. Hopefully we'll have a few more copies for people to look at, but it's a good way to show that in this space people do work hard, and they definitely look at innovative ways as well. The only other one I will mention that is similar in being innovative is the Matu Arts Centre up in Newman, with what they are doing with their art now. The artists that are all Matu, they've now actually created 3D art. So they computerise their artwork and turn it into a full story. So there's a lot of exciting things happening in Indigenous art, but just want to say to Mount Magnet, thank you for welcoming me there, and to Ollie, keep doing up the good work.